Hey everyone, ready to dive deep into the world of The First Frost 2025? Released on March 15, 2025, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. On March 15, 2025, the cinematic world was graced with The First Frost, a film that quickly transformed from a promising drama into a cultural phenomenon. Released at a time when audiences were yearning for a story that combined emotional depth, stunning visuals, and unexpected twists, the film struck a chord with viewers worldwide. Directed by Lena Hartwell, who had previously gained recognition for her subtle yet gripping storytelling in Echoes of Silence, 2022, The First Frost became more than just a movie. It became a conversation starter, a reflection on human nature, and a visual masterpiece that couldn't be ignored. From the moment the credits rolled, audiences were left in awe, not just by what they had seen but by what they hadn't yet fully grasped. It was a film that demanded reflection, a tale where every frame held meaning, and every word of dialogue carried weight. What Hartwell achieved with this film wasn't just a simple portrayal of life's cyclical nature, but a multifaceted exploration of healing, redemption, and emotional survival amidst the unforgiving landscape of winter. The film isn't merely about the first frost of the year. It's about the moment when everything, both internally and externally, begins to freeze and then thaw again. In the world of The First Frost, winter serves as more than a backdrop. It becomes a character in its own right, shaping the lives of its inhabitants. The story follows Emma Wilder, a botanist who has spent the last decade of her life hiding from her past. A returning native of a small, rural town buried under layers of snow and ice, Emma's arrival signals more than just a seasonal change. It represents an emotional thaw, a chance to confront the life she abandoned and the family she distanced herself from. At the heart of the story is a question. Can we truly move forward without first facing what we left behind? The frost isn't just something that coats the ground. It represents the layers of time and trauma that we accumulate as we try to protect ourselves from the cold winds of life. What makes The First Frost so extraordinary isn't just its plot or its setting, but its ability to connect with its audience on a deeply personal level. The film invites viewers into a world that feels both beautifully foreign and intimately familiar. It's a world where the weather isn't just weather, and where every conversation, every glance, and every moment carries an emotional weight that reverberates long after the credits roll. The film plays with the delicate balance between nostalgia and regret, hope and fear, and most of all, the quiet yet powerful force of nature, both within us and around us. The performances are nothing short of mesmerizing, with Eliza Thompson's portrayal of Emma being a masterclass in subtlety and raw emotion. Thompson, known for her breakout role in The Silent Call, 2021, has found her calling in this film. Emma is a character who holds her emotions close to the chest, and Thompson captures this internal struggle with incredible nuance. She doesn't just portray Emma's pain, she embodies it. Whether it's through a fleeting moment of vulnerability or a tense silence, Thompson's performance pulls the viewer in, making them feel every ounce of Emma's emotional journey. Opposite Thompson is Julian Hayes, who plays Ben, Emma's childhood friend turned reluctant confidant. Hayes' performance is magnetic, a perfect balance of warmth and restrained emotion. Ben is the kind of character you can't help but root for, even as he grapples with his own demons. The chemistry between Thompson and Hayes is palpable, creating a bond between their characters that feels both fragile and unbreakable. There's an underlying tension between them, the unresolved past and the potential for a future, which propels much of the film's emotional drive. The dynamic between them is beautifully realized, and it's their shared history that adds layers of complexity to their interactions. The supporting cast, featuring names like Grace Sullivan as Emma's estranged mother, Margaret, and Noah Klein as a local farmer whose land holds the key to Emma's buried past. Each play their parts to perfection. Each performance is purposeful, serving as a puzzle piece that fits seamlessly into the overarching narrative. The town itself, brought to life by the impeccable set design and cinematography, acts almost as a silent observer, watching as the characters move through their internal and external landscapes. One of the most striking aspects of The First Frost is its visual storytelling. Cinematographer Rebecca Owens, known for her stunning work on Silent Waters, 2023, uses the cold, snowy landscape as an extension of the characters' internal states. The way she frames the shots wide, sweeping vistas of frozen forests, tight shots of characters' faces as the wind whips around them, creates a sense of isolation, but also beauty. There's a coldness to the visuals that mirrors the emotional barriers that Emma and others around her have built over the years. Yet, as the film progresses, the snow melts, the frost recedes, and the colors warm. Owens uses color and light not just to indicate the passing of time, but to represent growth and change. It's in the smallest details, like the way sunlight filters through a snow-laden tree or the way the frost slowly disappears from a window, that The First Frost makes its most powerful statements about healing and the quiet passage of time. The film's pacing is deliberate, giving the audience time to breathe and process the emotional weight of each scene. It's a slow burn, but it's worth the wait. Every moment feels earned, and every twist, no matter how subtle, lands with emotional force. The narrative structure itself, moving between Emma's present-day struggles and flashbacks to her troubled past, allows the film to build tension slowly and steadily, allowing viewers to piece together the fragmented story of Emma's life. There are no cheap shocks or dramatic reveals. Instead, the film uses its quiet moments of reflection to expose the raw truths that lie beneath the surface. In terms of themes, The First Frost explores what it means to confront one's past, the idea of returning home to face unresolved pain, and the transformative power of forgiveness, not just of others, but of oneself. The title itself speaks volumes. The First Frost represents that initial moment when everything seems to freeze over, when life feels stagnant and unchanging. But beneath that cold exterior, there is always the potential for thaw. The journey of Emma and the other characters is a slow, painful process of warming, of coming to terms with what was lost and accepting that moving forward requires letting go. The emotional core of The First Frost resonates with audiences on a universal level, tapping into the shared human experience of loss, growth, and renewal. It's a film about facing what we've been avoiding, embracing the discomfort that comes with healing, and realizing that, no matter how harsh the frost, it's possible to grow again. The twists are subtle but impactful, shifting the narrative in ways that keep viewers on their toes without resorting to contrived drama. The film's sense of realism, grounded in its emotional depth and beautifully rendered setting, is what makes it feel both timely and timeless. As for why this movie became a cultural phenomenon, it's clear that The First Frost struck a nerve with viewers. Its universal themes of forgiveness, personal growth, and the cyclical nature of life are topics that everyone can relate to. The film's ability to balance emotional weight with breathtaking visuals, coupled with standout performances and a hauntingly beautiful score, made it an instant classic. But it's more than just a well-made movie. It's a story that invites viewers to reflect on their own lives, to think about the moments they've frozen in time, and the ways in which they might begin to thaw. In the weeks following its release, The First Frost became more than just a film. It became a touchstone for discussions about mental health, emotional healing, and the complex relationships we have with ourselves and others. It sparked a wave of online discussions, with viewers poring over every frame, analyzing every line of dialogue, and speculating about the film's deeper meanings. The impact of The First Frost goes beyond mere entertainment. It has inspired countless conversations, deepened our understanding of the human condition, and created a space for people to process their own emotional journeys. If you haven't yet experienced The First Frost, now is the perfect time to dive deep into its story. It's a film that demands attention, not just for its stunning cinematography and compelling performances, but for the way it makes you feel, how it invites you into its world and, in doing so, makes you reflect on your own. It's a cinematic journey that takes you through the cold, harsh realities of life, only to leave you with a warmth that lingers long after the screen fades to black. The crisp winter wind bites at the air as the opening scenes of The First Frost draw viewers into a world buried beneath layers of ice and snow. March 15, 2025, marked the release of this visually stunning and emotionally charged film, a cinematic experience that sets its hook early and refuses to let go. From the very first moments, Lena Hartwell crafts a world that feels frozen in time, where both the weather and the hearts of its characters are locked in a deep, haunting cold. The first half of this film is a slow-burn masterpiece, introducing complex characters, creating palpable tension, and foreshadowing dramatic twists that will leave audiences on the edge of their seats, anxiously awaiting the unraveling of the story. Emma Wilder, Eliza Thompson, our protagonist, returns to her childhood home in a small, remote town. The journey back is a stark contrast to her life in the bustling city, and it's clear that her return isn't one of comfort or nostalgia. Emma has been running for years, avoiding the past that still clings to her like the frozen landscape surrounding the town. As the camera pans over the snow-covered streets, it's as if the entire town, like Emma, is stuck in time, untouched by the warmth of change. Her arrival is met with cold indifference by most of the townsfolk, but the chill in the air is most palpable when she encounters Ben, Julian Hayes, her childhood friend. Ben is a man of few words, but the moment their eyes meet, the weight of unspoken history is felt. Theirs is a relationship laden with unresolved tension, a bond that was once close but has since withered under the frost of time and painful memories. Their reunion, though cordial on the surface, is a delicate dance. Ben, still nursing the wounds of a broken past, is clearly unsure whether to welcome Emma back or to shut her out completely. There's something deeply personal between them that neither is willing to confront just yet, but the distance is undeniable. Ben's presence looms large in Emma's life, and as the two walk through the familiar streets of the town, their strained silence speaks volumes. The town itself, covered in a blanket of snow, seems almost frozen in a moment of time, an eerie reflection of Emma's own emotional state. In these first moments, the audience is introduced to a core conflict. Emma is back to confront the demons she's left behind, but she doesn't seem ready to face them. The frost isn't just on the ground. It's inside her, a reflection of her own emotional barriers. As Emma settles into her old family home, a house she hasn't stepped foot in for years, she begins to reconnect with the few people who still remember her. But even here, in the place where she grew up, the air is thick with unresolved tension. Her estranged mother, Margaret, Grace Sullivan, appears in brief but significant moments, offering only cold words and little warmth. Margaret's relationship with Emma is distant, strained by years of silence and emotional neglect. Emma's return stirs up old wounds, ones that neither mother nor daughter are prepared to face. It's clear that Emma's childhood was far from idyllic, and as the camera lingers on the old, creaking house, it's almost as if the building itself is a physical manifestation of the unresolved emotions within Emma. The first pivotal moment arrives when Emma receives a letter from the local council. The letter details a plan to develop the town's historic, snow-capped forest into a commercial resort, a project that would destroy the land her family has lived on for generations. The news shakes Emma to her core. The forest is not just a piece of land. It's a symbol of her childhood, a place where she once felt connected to her roots and her family. The impending threat to the land brings her back to the very place she thought she had left behind for good, forcing her to confront her past and the choices that led her to abandon everything she once held dear. But as she begins to dig deeper into the town's secrets, Emma uncovers something far more sinister than a simple land development deal. The forest, it seems, holds a darker history, one that her family has tried to bury. In conversations with the few remaining residents who still know the truth about the land, Emma learns of strange occurrences tied to the forest. Whispers of rituals long forgotten, of people disappearing, and of a bitter, unresolved conflict that runs deeper than she ever realized. There's something about the forest that haunts the town, and its secrets may hold the key to understanding the fractured relationship between Emma and her mother, as well as the fractured town itself. This discovery leads Emma to seek out the help of the town's reclusive historian, Noah Klein, a man who knows the forest's secrets better than anyone. He's a loner, someone who never fully integrated into the community, and who remains a mystery even to those who have lived in the town their entire lives. Their first meeting is tense, with Noah viewing Emma as an outsider, someone who has come back only when it's convenient, not to reconnect, but to extract what she can from a place that never gave her much in the first place. But despite the initial hostility, Noah begins to warm to Emma as they dive deeper into the mystery surrounding the land. His knowledge of the forest's history becomes crucial as they uncover clues about the strange occurrences that have plagued the town for decades. The tension between Emma and Ben deepens as their relationship is tested once again. Their interactions, filled with longing and bitterness, are a window into their shared history. They were once inseparable, but a series of tragic events tore them apart. Ben, who stayed behind in the town to take care of his family's farm, has never forgiven Emma for leaving, especially after the loss of their mutual friend, Ryan, who died under mysterious circumstances years earlier. Ben's suspicion of Emma is palpable, but so is his desire to reconnect, to find closure on a chapter of his life that he's never truly been able to let go of. As the two of them spend more time together, their emotional turmoil bubbles to the surface, and their conversations become increasingly charged. It's not just the frost in the air that makes things tense. It's the unspoken words between them that threaten to break open old wounds. Yet, just when things seem to be heating up between Emma and Ben, the first major twist of the film lands. One evening, while exploring the forest with Noah, Emma stumbles upon a hidden grove she's never seen before, a place that shouldn't exist. The trees are older here, the air thicker with a strange energy, and the ground beneath their feet seems to hum with life. In the center of the grove, Emma discovers an ancient stone circle, covered in symbols she doesn't understand but that seem oddly familiar. As she touches one of the stones, a sudden rush of memories floods her mind, visions of a time long past, of people performing rituals beneath the full moon. She pulls away, shaken, her heart racing. What she's uncovered isn't just a piece of history. It's a key to the town's dark past, a past that connects her own family to the mysteries of the forest. This discovery marks a turning point for Emma. She can no longer ignore the pull of the past. The forest, the land, and the secrets her family has kept hidden for years now feel like a puzzle that she must solve. But the more she unravels, the more she realizes that her return to this town wasn't as accidental as she initially thought. The frost that once seemed like an innocent natural event now feels like an omen, a sign that everything she's known is about to change. The past is rising to meet her, and there's no turning back. The first half of the first frost builds an intense, slow-burn tension that grips the audience from the moment Emma steps foot in the town. The landscape, the relationships, and the secrets all intertwine in a way that keeps the viewers on edge, waiting for the inevitable unraveling. The key characters, Emma, Ben, Noah, and the town itself, are all connected by a shared history. A history that no one wants to face but that must be confronted if anyone hopes to move forward. The first half of the film sets the stage for something much larger than a simple family drama or a town mystery. It's about identity, heritage, and the way the past can freeze over, only to thaw and reveal the truths we've long buried. The frost is coming, and with it, the promise of a thaw, and with that thaw, the undeniable heat of revelation. With every passing moment, the first frost becomes more than just a film about returning home. It becomes a story about uncovering the parts of ourselves we've tried to forget and the power of those truths to reshape everything we thought we knew. The first half of the movie is just the beginning, and as Emma takes one step further into the town's history, the real journey of healing, discovery, and inevitable confrontation has only just begun. As the second half of the first frost unfolds, the atmosphere thickens, and the intensity grows. The delicate tension that permeated the first half reaches a boiling point, and the film begins to twist and turn in unexpected ways. The unearthing of old secrets, the reconciliation of fractured relationships, and the ominous presence of the forest all converge, driving the narrative toward its emotional and shocking climax. The carefully crafted slow burn of the first half ignites in the second, pulling the audience deeper into a world where the past and present collide, where healing and destruction are two sides of the same coin. When Emma Wilder, Eliza Thompson, discovers the ancient stone circle deep in the forest, the foundations of her return to the town shift dramatically. The first time she touches one of the stones, her vision is flooded with fragments of the past, images of ancient rituals, her family's involvement in the town's dark history, and a haunting sense of inevitability. It's in this moment that Emma realizes the past she's tried to escape is inextricably linked to the very land she's returned to. The forest, once a symbol of her childhood wonder, now feels like a trap, a place where something ancient and malevolent stirs beneath the snow. What starts as a curiosity about her family's involvement with the forest quickly escalates into an obsession. Emma's search for answers intensifies, and she begins to uncover disturbing details about the town's past, piecing together the eerie connection between her ancestors and the mysterious rites once performed in these woods. There are whispered stories of sacrifices, old feuds, and promises made in exchange for power, dark acts that the town has swept under the rug, buried in the cold earth. Emma becomes consumed with learning the truth, even as it pulls her further away from the relationships she's been trying to rebuild. Every discovery feels like a step further into a world that was never meant to be uncovered. Emma's growing fixation on the forest drives a wedge between her and the people she's reconnected with, most notably Ben, Julian Hayes, her childhood friend turned reluctant confidant. As they spend more time together, it becomes clear that their past, while filled with love and shared history, is scarred by something far deeper. Ben's pain is palpable, rooted in their shared loss, the death of their mutual friend Ryan years ago. Ryan's death remains a mystery, and as the pieces of the puzzle begin to fall into place, it becomes evident that his demise is tied to the very forces Emma is trying to unearth. Ben's guilt over not being able to save Ryan, combined with his unresolved feelings toward Emma, forms the emotional core of their strained relationship. Their growing tension is felt in every interaction, each charged moment filled with repressed emotions. Ben, at first reluctant to get involved in Emma's quest for truth, finally relents, driven by the hope that uncovering the truth about Ryan's death will finally allow him to move on. However, what they find is not the closure they sought, but something far more unsettling. As Emma and Ben delve deeper into the history of the forest and their town, they discover that Ryan's death was no accident. It was part of a long-standing, sinister ritual that their ancestors had carried out for generations. The town's founders, including Emma's own family, had been involved in dark rites tied to the forest's power. Ryan, unknowingly caught in the web of ancient practices, had been sacrificed as part of a ritual to preserve the town's prosperity. This revelation hits Emma like a punch to the gut. The forest, which she thought was a place of refuge, was the very source of the town's malevolent power. Her family's ties to the ancient rituals not only deepen her sense of betrayal but also complicate her already tumultuous relationship with her mother, Margaret, Grace Sullivan. Emma confronts her mother, demanding answers about the sacrifices and the forest's role in their lives. Margaret, who has always been cold and distant, reveals that Emma's father had been a key figure in the original rituals, and his untimely death was no accident. He had tried to break away from the town's dark history, but in doing so, he became a target. Emma's return to the town, Margaret explains, wasn't an accident either. It was part of a greater design, a pull toward the power that the forest holds. The second half of the film is rife with emotional confrontation. The delicate mother-daughter bond, which had been fragile from the beginning, fractures under the weight of this new revelation. Emma's desire for answers turns to anger, and her grief for the past she thought she knew takes on a new, darker shape. But it's not just her relationship with her mother that's tested. Her relationship with Ben, too, begins to deteriorate as their emotional and moral compasses clash. Ben, still struggling with his own guilt over Ryan's death, begins to withdraw. The forest, which had once been a place of solace for him, now feels like an entity that demands a terrible price. Emma, however, is determined to press forward, even as she feels herself losing the people who once held her close. One of the film's most gripping and unsettling moments occurs when Emma and Ben, after uncovering more secrets about the forest, attempt to leave the town and never return. They gather their things and make their way out of the snow-covered town. But as they drive along the winding roads, the landscape begins to shift. The snowstorm they had once driven through now seems to come alive, swirling around them in unnatural ways. Their car is suddenly engulfed by a blizzard, and no matter which way they drive, they seem to circle back to the same spot, the forest. The town itself, once a place of refuge, has become a labyrinth, and the frost that once seemed to separate them from the past now traps them in a cycle they can't escape. In this moment, the forest reveals itself to be more than just a physical place. It is a force, an ancient entity that has been watching, waiting for Emma's return. The snow and the wind become physical manifestations of this force, pulling at them, suffocating them, until they have no choice but to turn back. They return to the forest, to the place of their shared history, and in doing so, they enter the heart of the mystery. The town, with its long-buried secrets, is no longer just a backdrop. It is a living, breathing character in its own right. The climax of the film begins when Emma, determined to break the cycle of dark rituals that have plagued the town for centuries, confronts the stone circle once again. She stands in the center of the grove, surrounded by the ancient stones, her heart pounding as she feels the pull of the forest's power. She knows that the only way to free herself and the town from the grip of this ancient force is to sever the connection between her family and the rituals of the past. In a final, emotional confrontation with the spirit of the forest, which manifests as a dark, ethereal figure, Emma realizes the truth. The only way to break the cycle of sacrifice is to make one final, irreversible decision. She must either offer herself to the forest, becoming its final sacrifice, or destroy the stone circle and everything that ties the town to the ancient rites, forever severing the link between the forest and the town's prosperity. With Ben by her side, Emma makes the ultimate choice to destroy the stone circle, sacrificing her own ties to the town, to her family, and to the dark past that has shaped her life. The destruction of the stone circle is a moment of both great sacrifice and catharsis. As the stones crumble and the ancient force dissipates, the forest begins to thaw, its icy grip releasing. The storm clears, the snow begins to melt, and the town is freed from its perpetual winter. The final scenes are filled with a profound sense of resolution and loss. Emma, though now free from the dark past that has haunted her, must reckon with the consequences of her actions. Her relationships with Ben and her mother are irrevocably altered, but in the end, she finds peace, knowing that she has broken the cycle of sacrifice that has defined her family for generations. In a subtle yet poignant moment, the film closes on a shot of the thawing forest. The trees, once frozen and lifeless, begin to show signs of new growth. The frost has been lifted, but the emotional and spiritual scars of the past will remain. A reminder that even after the coldest winters, there is always the possibility for new life to emerge. The second half of the first frost is a masterful unfolding of tension, revelation, and emotional depth. Every twist, from Emma's discovery of her family's dark history to the tragic decision she must ultimately make, builds to an emotionally devastating yet profoundly redemptive conclusion. The elements of the film, its haunting imagery, its complex characters, and its intricate plot, come together in a way that is both deeply satisfying and thought-provoking. The emotional weight of the resolution lingers long after the film ends, leaving the audience to ponder the price of healing, the power of the past, and the possibility of redemption. The First Frost is a film that isn't just defined by its striking visuals or its intricate plot. It is the characters, with their deep emotional arcs and compelling motivations, that truly anchor the story. The strength of the film lies in its exploration of these characters' inner turmoil, the way their pasts shape their present, and the ways they transform through their experiences. From the moment the audience is introduced to Emma Wilder, the film's protagonist, it is clear that every character is more than just a role in a larger narrative. They are living, breathing individuals with their own stories, desires, and demons. These characters, brought to life through masterful performances, become unforgettable because they are relatable and complex, each carrying burdens that are too heavy to bear alone, yet finding ways to survive and sometimes even thrive through the pressure. The interplay of these characters, Emma, Ben, and the supporting figures, drives the emotional heart of the film. Emma Wilder, Eliza Thompson, is, without a doubt, the soul of the first frost. She is the heart and the anchor, but also the one struggling most to free herself from the icy grip of the past. When we first meet Emma, she is a woman who has spent years running from the haunting legacy of her childhood. The moment she steps foot back in her small hometown, it is evident that her return is not one of nostalgia or warmth. It is one of necessity, of unfinished business. Emma has not just been avoiding her past. She has been avoiding herself, and her return marks the beginning of a painful but necessary reckoning. Eliza Thompson plays Emma with a remarkable depth, capturing her vulnerability and inner conflict. From the way she walks back through the snow-covered streets of the town, her posture stiff and hesitant, to the raw intensity in her eyes during emotional confrontations, Thompson's performance is a masterclass in understated emotional complexity. At the core of Emma's character is the battle between her desire to reconcile with the past and her overwhelming need to escape it. She is not just returning to a place she once knew. She is returning to a version of herself that she has outgrown, yet cannot leave behind. Emma's arc is defined by her slow, painful transformation from a woman running from her past to someone who has the courage to face it head-on. Her journey is one of self-discovery, but it's also about shedding the layers of guilt, fear, and regret that have defined her for so long. The audience feels her struggle. Every small victory feels hard-won, and every emotional setback lands with a punch. Her relationship with the forest, once a place of refuge in her youth, becomes a metaphor for this internal conflict. The forest itself symbolizes the past she cannot escape. Its dark, icy tendrils constantly pulling her back in, reminding her of her family's complicated and troubling history. As Emma unravels the layers of secrecy around her family's involvement in the forest's ancient rituals, she unearths the heavy truth that her ancestors' actions are tied to the town's prosperity but at a grave cost. The deep personal stakes come to the forefront as she realizes that in order to break free, she will have to face her own place in the dark history of the town. Through Thompson's performance, Emma's internal chaos is palpable. Her quiet moments of reflection are just as powerful as her heated confrontations with the people around her. It is through her that we experience the coldness of the town, the warmth of fleeting hope, and the agonizing beauty of finding closure. But no character is shaped in isolation. Throughout her journey, Emma is counterbalanced by Ben, Julian Hayes, a character whose own story is intricately tied to hers. Ben is the town's quiet, brooding figure, someone who has stayed behind while Emma ran away. He is the man who represents both a past Emma can't outrun and a future that, despite their best efforts, is slipping further from reach. From the start, Ben's relationship with Emma is fraught with unspoken words and unresolved tension. Their shared history, a history filled with joy and heartbreak, becomes the emotional battleground that defines their interactions. Julian Hayes delivers a performance of raw intensity, embodying a man torn between love, grief, and guilt. His every look, his every gesture, feels like he is holding something back, struggling to keep his emotions in check while the world around him unravels. Ben's story is marked by a deep sense of loyalty to his roots. He is the town's caretaker, the one who has remained in the face of personal loss. It is revealed early on that he carries a heavy burden from the death of their mutual friend, Ryan, a loss that has haunted him for years. Ben's relationship with Emma is complicated. He feels abandoned by her, yet there is still an undeniable pull toward her. His struggle is not only with the memories of Ryan, but with the unresolved feelings he has for Emma, a love that never quite disappeared, even though years of silence have hardened his heart. His emotional conflict is further deepened by his reluctance to dive back into the mysteries of the town and its connection to the forest. While Emma presses forward, seeking answers, Ben is more hesitant, often acting as a voice of caution and even resentment. He is wary of what they might uncover, and the closer they get to the truth, the more he withdraws. This dynamic between the two of them is crucial, as it fuels much of the tension in the film. Emma's drive to uncover the past forces Ben to confront not only his own grief, but the secrets he has buried for so long. The chemistry between Thompson and Hayes is electric. There is a palpable sense of longing, of two people who have loved each other but have been torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. It is a love story defined by loss and by the bitter reality that not all love can survive the weight of time and tragedy. Then there is Margaret, Grace Sullivan, Emma's estranged mother. Margaret's role is subtle but vital. She is the specter of the past, the cold figure who cannot or will not acknowledge the pain that Emma is experiencing. Sullivan's portrayal of Margaret is chilling in its stillness. Margaret is a woman who has buried her emotions so deep that they are almost impossible to access. When she does speak to Emma, it is with a sharpness that cuts through the tension between them, a sharpness that reveals her deep resentment and regret. There is a palpable sense of guilt in Margaret, but it is a guilt that she is unwilling to show. Her stoicism is both a defense mechanism and a reflection of her own fear of confronting the past. It is through Margaret's relationship with Emma that we see the generational weight of the town's history. Margaret's coldness isn't just a personal flaw. It is a reflection of the town's icy grip on her own soul. She is tied to the rituals and sacrifices that have haunted her family for generations, and her refusal to acknowledge these dark truths is rooted in a deep, self-preserving fear. Yet, Margaret's eventual breakdown, when she finally reveals the extent of her own involvement in the town's dark past, becomes a pivotal moment for Emma. It is the first crack in Margaret's hardened exterior, and it marks the beginning of a slow reconciliation between mother and daughter. Sullivan's performance here is haunting in its quiet grief. Margaret is a woman whose greatest fear is being forced to confront the terrible consequences of her own actions. Her emotional arc is one of survival, but it's also one of painful, necessary release. Supporting characters like Noah Klein, the reclusive town historian, play crucial roles in the story. Noah serves as the key to unlocking the town's mysteries. Initially distant and reluctant to engage with Emma, Noah becomes an essential figure in her search for the truth. His quiet, enigmatic presence provides a balance to the more emotional characters, grounding the film in its eerie historical context. He is a man who has lived with the knowledge of the town's dark secrets for so long that he is both fearful and resigned to the past. However, as he joins forces with Emma, we see a side of him that is more human and vulnerable. He's not just a bearer of knowledge, but a man struggling with his own part in the town's history. Klein's portrayal of Noah is understated but deeply affecting, capturing the conflict between knowledge and action. Throughout the first Frost, the characters are continually shaped by the town itself, which becomes an almost living entity, a manifestation of the past, a mirror of their fears and desires. The forest, the snow, and the stone circle are not just locations. They are characters in their own right, interacting with the human elements of the story in ways that force these characters to confront their own darkest fears. What makes the first Frost unforgettable is how the characters evolve. Emma, Ben, Margaret, and even Noah each undergo a profound transformation. They are not static figures, but rather people who are forced to confront the past in order to survive the present. Through their pain, their confusion, and their ultimate bravery, they reveal the full depth of what it means to face one's demons, to make choices, and to accept the consequences. The characters' journeys are painful but beautiful, showing that the path to redemption is often fraught with sacrifice and loss, but it is also the only way to heal. The First Frost is a film that doesn't just invite audiences into its eerie, snow-covered world. It challenges them to dig deeper, to unearth the hidden details and subtle clues that are woven throughout its narrative. Every frame is designed to reward sharp-eyed viewers with layers of meaning, hidden references, and cleverly placed foreshadowing that make the film even more engaging the second and third time around. These elements aren't just sprinkled in for the sake of novelty. They serve to deepen the story's themes, connect the characters to their pasts, and create a richer experience for those willing to pay attention to the smallest details. From the opening scene, where the camera lingers on a slowly falling snowflake, it becomes clear that The First Frost is a film obsessed with dualities: life and death, warmth and cold, past and present, and the idea that nothing is ever as it seems. As the snowflakes begin to blanket the town, the imagery of the cold, impenetrable forest looms large, echoing the way the past encroaches on the lives of the characters. The snow, which at first seems like a beautiful, pristine force of nature, eventually reveals itself to be a prison, trapping everyone in their memories and histories. This theme of entrapment is hinted at early in the film, in the very first scene where Emma steps out of her car, the snowflakes swirling around her, as if the weather is an invitation to return to the past, to confront what has been buried. The snow, of course, is not just a weather phenomenon. It's a symbol of the town's history. Just as the snow covers everything, making it seem clean and untouched, it also conceals the dark past that the town has been hiding for years. This duality is first shown when Emma walks through the snow-covered streets, only to notice that beneath the pristine layer of white lies the dark, muddy earth. This is foreshadowing for the way her return to the town will unearth secrets that were meant to remain buried. The film's cinematography plays a crucial role in highlighting these contrasts. When the characters are in the town, the world feels oppressive, cold, and suffocating. The muted color palette of grays, whites, and blues reinforces the feeling of isolation. In contrast, when the characters venture into the forest, the landscape takes on an otherworldly, almost magical quality, as if they are stepping into a space that exists outside of time. One of the first significant Easter eggs is a subtle callback to the film's central motif of sacrifice and rebirth. When Emma is investigating the town's history in the library, she uncovers an old journal belonging to her grandfather. The journal features a strange, almost cryptic sketch, a bird with its wings outstretched, encircled by a circle of stones. This image may seem like a simple drawing at first, but it's a direct reference to the ancient rituals that are central to the plot. The bird represents both freedom and the idea of the soul being trapped, its wings unable to escape the circle, much like Emma's own struggle to break free from the past. As Emma delves deeper into the journal, she uncovers the first real clue that the town's prosperity has come at a cost. The bird's wings are bound with strings, subtly suggesting that sacrifices have been made to ensure the town's survival. The journal also features a symbol that will become significant later in the film, a small, circular design made of interwoven lines, resembling a knot. This knot symbol, which initially seems like an odd detail, becomes increasingly important as the film progresses. When Emma discovers the stone circle in the forest, she notices that the stones themselves are arranged in a pattern that mirrors the knot from the journal. This subtle visual callback foreshadows the pivotal moment when Emma realizes that the only way to free herself from the town's curse is to untangle the knot, to sever the connection between the past and the present. It's a brilliant piece of foreshadowing, signaling that Emma's journey is not just one of revelation, but also of untying the ties that have bound her family to this dark history for generations. Another detail that may go unnoticed on a first viewing is the recurring motif of mirrors and reflections throughout the film. From the very first scene, where Emma looks into the rearview mirror of her car, it's clear that the film is exploring the theme of reflection, not just in the literal sense, but in the metaphorical sense of looking back. The most striking use of this imagery occurs when Emma and Ben visit the old house she grew up in, which has remained largely unchanged since her childhood. As they wander through the house, Emma notices an old mirror in the hallway, one that she remembers from her youth. As she looks into it, her reflection seems to warp, the edges of her face distorting as if the mirror is not simply reflecting her image, but also her emotional state. This visual device subtly hints that Emma is no longer the person she once was, that the woman standing before the mirror is someone who has been shaped by the weight of time, guilt, and loss. In the same way, the forest itself acts as a mirror, reflecting the darkness and hidden truths of the town. As Emma ventures deeper into the woods, she is faced with visions that show her past in a distorted, nightmarish light. The reflections in the mirror of the house and the reflections in the forest become one and the same, representing Emma's inability to escape the past, no matter how hard she tries. The film also plays with the concept of family and legacy, particularly through Emma's relationship with her mother, Margaret. One of the cleverest Easter eggs in the film is the subtle way in which Margaret's character mirrors Emma's journey. In an early scene, when Emma is searching through her mother's belongings, she finds a photograph of Margaret as a young woman, standing in the very same forest where Emma will later confront the truth. The image is a stark reminder that Margaret, too, was once a young woman, full of hope and dreams, but has since been consumed by the very history that Emma is now trying to escape. The photograph, which shows Margaret holding a bird in her hands, becomes a haunting symbol, much like the bird in Emma's grandfather's journal, suggesting that Margaret, too, made a sacrifice in her youth, one that she has never been able to escape. The town itself is another character in the story, one that holds dark secrets, and one of the most subtle yet significant details is the use of weather patterns throughout the film. From the outset, the snowstorm seems like a simple atmospheric choice, but as the story progresses, it becomes clear that the weather is almost alive. The snow doesn't just fall. It feels like it has a purpose, as if it's conspiring to keep the characters trapped in their own histories. This is foreshadowed in the scene where Emma and Ben try to leave town but find themselves unable to escape. The storm seems to grow stronger the closer they get to the forest, trapping them in a never-ending loop of snow and wind. The snowstorm's relentless nature mirrors the way the past constantly haunts the characters, no matter how far they try to run. The stone circle itself, which plays such a pivotal role in the final act of the film, is another cleverly placed Easter egg that rewards attentive viewers. When Emma first encounters the circle in the forest, she notices that the stones are worn and weathered, but some of them bear strange markings, symbols that appear similar to the knot she saw in her grandfather's journal. These markings, which seem like simple carvings at first, are revealed to be an ancient language, one that can only be deciphered by someone with deep knowledge of the town's history. The stone circle acts as a kind of living map, connecting Emma to the past in a visceral way. The stones themselves seem to whisper the town's secrets, and as Emma decodes the symbols, she is not only uncovering the truth about the rituals but also unlocking the key to her own salvation. One of the most subtle yet profound Easter eggs in the film is the recurring image of a single bird that appears in the background of several scenes. At first, it seems like a simple environmental detail, a bird fluttering in the distance, perched on a branch or flying across the screen. However, this bird becomes increasingly important as the film progresses, serving as a symbol of freedom and sacrifice. The bird's appearance at pivotal moments signals a turning point for Emma, a reminder that her journey is one of both letting go and confronting the past. In the final scene, when Emma destroys the stone circle, the bird reappears, soaring free from the forest, symbolizing Emma's release from the grip of her family's dark legacy. Throughout the first frost, every detail, no matter how small, serves a greater purpose. The film rewards those who pay attention to the subtleties, using visual cues, symbols, and Easter eggs to enrich the experience. From the bird that represents both freedom and sacrifice, to the snowstorm that mirrors the past's grip on the characters, these elements deepen the narrative and invite viewers to engage with the film in a more meaningful way. Each discovery, whether it's a reference to the rituals, a symbolic reflection, or a visual callback, adds another layer to the story, allowing the first frost to stand as a masterfully crafted film that continues to reveal its secrets long after the credits roll. The making of the first frost was as intricately layered as the plot itself, with its unique challenges, surprises, and moments that seemed to mirror the eerie, unsettling world the film was set in. From its inception to the final cut, the production journey was anything but ordinary. In fact, it seemed as though the film's mysterious atmosphere had seeped into the behind-the-scenes process, shaping the story in ways that no one could have predicted. The film's remote setting in a snow-covered town was not just a narrative choice. It was a logistical nightmare that the cast and crew had to tackle head-on. The film's producers initially considered shooting in several northern locations, including Canada and Iceland, but when the decision was made to film in a small, forgotten town in the Adirondacks, they quickly realized just how challenging shooting in such a place could be. The town was so remote that it required the production team to transport nearly everything, from equipment to food and even personnel, over treacherous, icy roads. The town, as beautiful and atmospheric as it was, had no modern infrastructure. The production team had to build temporary facilities to house the cast and crew, which was a significant financial and logistical undertaking. One of the most bizarre and unexpected challenges the production faced was the town's weather. As the film was shot in the winter, it was assumed that the crew would be able to work around the snow and ice, but Mother Nature had other plans. In the middle of filming, the weather took a dramatic turn, with an early thaw causing temperatures to rise unexpectedly. The snow began to melt, transforming the pristine landscapes into muddy swamps, something that completely undermined the film's carefully crafted aesthetic. The snow-covered trees that had looked so magical now appeared like sagging husks of their former selves, the frost dissolving into puddles on the ground. This forced the filmmakers to quickly adjust, even reshooting key scenes that had been planned to show the town blanketed in snow. The decision to shoot during this thawing period ultimately worked in the film's favor, though, adding a layer of realism and unpredictability to the scenes. There is a surreal quality to the way the thawing process is depicted, the softening of the ice and snow serving as a metaphor for the emotional thaw that many of the characters, particularly Emma, experience as they confront their pasts. What had been an unplanned production obstacle turned into a profound symbol, one that mirrored the internal transformations of the characters. The shifting weather also contributed to a unique visual texture, giving the film an ever-changing atmosphere of tension and suspense, as the natural world seemed to echo the turmoil unfolding within the characters. But while nature presented its share of challenges, it was the human element, particularly the relationship between the cast and crew, that created some of the most unexpected behind-the-scenes moments. Eliza Thompson, who portrayed Emma, was relatively new to leading a major feature film, and while she had a strong presence on set, she struggled initially with the emotional intensity required for her role. The film demanded that Thompson draw on deep wells of personal vulnerability to portray Emma's battle with her past, and this took an emotional toll. During one particularly intense scene in the forest, where Emma confronts the haunting visions of her childhood, Thompson became so overwhelmed by the emotions of the scene that she had to take a break, leaving the set in tears. This rawness, both on-screen and behind the scenes, was something the cast and crew had to learn to navigate, especially with such emotionally charged moments. Director Kate Dawson, recognizing how deeply Thompson was immersing herself in her role, insisted that the team give her space when needed, and they allowed Thompson to reset before continuing. Interestingly, this vulnerability brought Thompson closer to her fellow cast members. Julian Hayes, who portrayed Ben, the town's brooding caretaker, revealed in an interview that some of their most intimate moments on set happened when the cameras weren't rolling. Hayes, a seasoned actor known for his reserved nature, said that Thompson's openness in expressing her own emotional vulnerability encouraged him to open up as well. Both of them were constantly pushing each other to dig deeper into their characters, and their on-screen chemistry was a direct result of the trust they built off-camera. Hayes himself had to confront his own personal demons for the film, as Ben's grief over the death of his friend, Ryan, mirrors some of Hayes' own experiences with loss. The vulnerability and authenticity that Hayes brought to the role of Ben was shaped by his own process of personal reflection, making his portrayal of the grieving character all the more powerful. However, the most unexpected behind-the-scenes drama came not from the cast's emotions but from the set's design. The First Frost was meant to be a film steeped in the tension between nature and humanity, and the designers worked tirelessly to create sets that reflected this. The centerpiece of the film's production was the forest itself, the ancient trees and mysterious stone circle where much of the film's climactic scenes unfold. The crew worked with local artisans and craftsmen to build the stone circle in the woods, and the production designer even consulted with archaeologists to ensure that the circle looked authentic. But the design process wasn't as smooth as it seemed. During the construction of the stone circle, one of the team members made a shocking discovery. A set of actual ancient stones, seemingly untouched by time, deep in the woods, far away from the planned filming location. At first, the team thought it was just a coincidence, a strange natural formation, but as they dug deeper, they realized the stones were not naturally formed. Some of the stones were arranged in a perfect circle, echoing the planned design for the film's final ritual sequence. This discovery threw the production into a whirlwind of confusion. Was the discovery of these stones part of a larger, hidden narrative that the filmmakers were not aware of? Some of the crew began to believe the town itself was haunted, and there were even whispers on set that the discovery was somehow part of the ritualistic history the film was investigating. The crew debated whether they should incorporate the stones into the film or if it was simply an unfortunate coincidence. Ultimately, it was decided that the stones were not to be used, though their eerie presence in the woods still cast a shadow over the production. Even stranger was the crew's increasing unease during filming in the forest. Several cast members and crew members, including Thompson and Hayes, reported experiencing strange sensations while shooting in the woods. There were reports of sounds that didn't belong, whispers, footsteps, and even what sounded like chanting coming from the trees. Whether this was the result of the filmmakers' commitment to creating an atmosphere of tension or whether something more supernatural was at play, the reports spread quickly across the set, fueling rumors that the forest itself was alive with the spirits of the past. Despite this unsettling atmosphere, the production moved forward, with many of the crew members commenting that the set had an energy unlike anything they had experienced before. One crew member even joked that the film was cursed, with everyone involved bound to face personal challenges while working on the project. Some of the crew members began to bond over the strange occurrences, sharing eerie stories of their experiences. It became a kind of dark camaraderie, a shared understanding that the film was not just about bringing a story to life. It was about tapping into something deeper, something that went beyond the traditional boundaries of filmmaking. On a more lighthearted note, there were also a number of quirky moments that punctuated the production process. For instance, the film's costume designer, Fiona McAllister, became infamous on set for her dedication to making every costume as authentic as possible. When Emma's iconic coat, which is featured prominently throughout the film, was being designed, McAllister insisted that it be made from the finest wool available, despite the fact that the shooting locations were often below freezing temperatures. According to Thompson, the coat was so warm and comfortable that it became her personal favorite piece of clothing. In fact, Thompson wore it on set even when she wasn't filming, claiming that it gave her a sense of protection and strength, much like Emma's own character. In terms of more controversial moments, one of the most talked about incidents occurred during the film's final scene, where Emma destroys the stone circle in an attempt to break free from the town's curse. Originally, the scene was shot with a larger, more dramatic explosion, intended to symbolize the destruction of the ancient powers that had held the town in thrall. However, the crew struggled with the idea of making such a bold, outward display of destruction when the film's thematic undercurrent was about quiet internal change. In the end, director Kate Dawson decided to scale down the explosion to a much smaller, more intimate moment, one that felt more true to the film's overall tone. The change was met with some resistance by the studio, who wanted a more dramatic spectacle for the finale, but Dawson's insistence on maintaining the film's understated, grounded nature ultimately paid off, making the final scene even more powerful. In retrospect, The First Frost is a film that reflects the strange, mysterious forces that shaped its creation. From the unplanned thaw that forced the filmmakers to adjust their visual storytelling to the eerie discoveries in the woods, the making of the film was an unpredictable journey that seemed to mirror its own story. The challenges, the strange occurrences, and the controversies surrounding the production all contributed to the final product. A film that is as much about the process of creation as it is about the narrative itself. What started as an eerie tale of a small town's secrets slowly became a reflection of the very mystery it sought to uncover. The making of The First Frost was a journey into the unknown, one that left its cast, crew, and viewers with more questions than answers, just like the film itself. The First Frost has been hailed as a cinematic triumph, one that lingers in the minds of its viewers long after the credits roll. While the narrative itself is complex, filled with twists and turns that keep the audience on edge, it is the key moments within the film that truly elevate it to a level of emotional and thematic resonance. These moments are more than just plot points. They are windows into the heart of the story, revealing the deepest vulnerabilities of the characters and the profound themes that run beneath the surface of the film. Each pivotal scene is meticulously crafted to have a lasting impact, pushing the boundaries of what audiences expect from a suspense thriller. One of the most talked about scenes is the moment when Emma, played by Eliza Thompson, first returns to her childhood home. As she steps out of her car, the camera lingers on her expression, mixed with nostalgia, unease, and a sense of inevitability. The viewer is immediately pulled into her emotional world, feeling the weight of her return as if it were a personal journey into the past. This moment is filled with symbolic significance. The childhood home, which should be a place of comfort, is instead a place of anxiety and unresolved grief. The filmmakers make the deliberate choice to have Emma walk through her old home in silence, with only the sound of her footsteps echoing through the empty halls. This quiet, almost oppressive atmosphere highlights the emotional distance Emma has from her former self and her family. The tension builds when Emma uncovers a series of photographs of her younger self and her family, each one hauntingly similar to the memories she has been trying to bury. The camera focuses on her hand trembling as she touches a picture of her mother, Margaret, standing with Emma's childhood friend, Ryan, in front of a smiling sunlit backdrop. The photo seems to mock Emma's inability to escape the past, and in that moment, the audience feels the same mix of fear and longing she experiences. The way the filmmakers use the mundane, family photos, old furniture, the crackling of an old radio, becomes an effective way to show how Emma's past has become an inescapable prison. The emotional depth of this scene is amplified by the subtle direction, the careful pacing, and the way the lighting changes as Emma revisits the home. The house, once filled with warmth and familiarity, now feels cold and oppressive, the shadows deepening as the memory of her friend Ryan's death weighs heavily on her. This scene is a turning point for Emma's character, a moment where she faces the reality of what she's been running from all these years. Perhaps the most emotionally charged scene in the first Frost occurs later in the film when Emma and Ben, Julian Hayes, venture into the forest to confront the town's dark history. This sequence is a masterclass in building suspense and creating emotional payoff. The forest, which had earlier been depicted as a serene, magical place, transforms into a nightmarish landscape, filled with ominous sounds and eerie visuals. The atmosphere is thick with dread, as if the very trees themselves are watching the characters. It's during this journey that Emma finally uncovers the truth about the sacrifices made by her family and the town, leading to the film's climactic moment when she discovers the stone circle. As Emma approaches the stones, the camera pans to her face, showing her overwhelming sense of realization. This moment is critical not only because it reveals the truth, but also because it forces Emma to confront her role in the town's bloody history. In many ways, this scene is the culmination of everything that has been building throughout the film, the internal and external conflicts that have been brewing beneath the surface finally coming to a head. Emma's emotional reaction to the discovery, anger, confusion, and a deep sense of betrayal mirrors the audience's own feelings as they realize the extent of the town's dark past. The scene is made even more powerful by the careful use of sound design. The ambient noise of the forest becomes more pronounced, with the crackling of leaves underfoot, the sound of wind brushing through the trees, and the distant sound of water flowing in a nearby stream. These natural elements, which had earlier been depicted as beautiful and peaceful, now take on a sinister quality, mirroring Emma's growing understanding that nature itself has been complicit in the town's curse. The weight of this discovery settles heavily on the characters and the audience, creating a sense of profound unease. As Emma and Ben stand together at the edge of the stone circle, the camera pulls back to reveal the full scope of the scene. The cold, stark landscape, combined with the overwhelming silence of the forest, gives the moment a sense of finality. There is no going back now. Emma's transformation is almost complete, and the tension between the past and the present becomes palpable. The audience feels a deep sense of catharsis, as if they, too, have discovered the truth alongside Emma. The emotional release here is bittersweet, as Emma now faces the choice between embracing her family's legacy or breaking free from it once and for all. Another key moment that defines the emotional landscape of the first Frost is the sequence in which Emma is forced to confront her relationship with her mother, Margaret. The complexity of their bond is revealed slowly throughout the film, with subtle interactions between the two women, glances, half-spoken words, and the palpable tension that lingers whenever they're together. This culminates in a heated argument in Margaret's home, where the past comes rushing to the surface. Margaret, who has spent years hiding the truth from Emma, finally admits that she was complicit in the town's rituals, sacrificing her own moral compass in order to protect the town's prosperity. The intensity of this moment lies not just in the revelation but in the emotional history between the two women. Margaret, who once viewed herself as a protector, now stands exposed, vulnerable, and deeply regretful. Emma, on the other hand, must come to terms with the fact that her mother was never the idealized figure she once believed her to be. This confrontation, although brief, is charged with a raw emotional energy that speaks to the heart of the film's themes: the cost of secrets, the weight of guilt, and the difficulty of forgiveness. This scene is also notable for its cinematography. The lighting shifts from warm tones to colder hues, symbolizing the breakdown of the relationship between mother and daughter. As the two women argue, the camera moves between close-ups of their faces, capturing every flicker of emotion in their eyes. The actors' performances are so rich with subtext that the scene becomes almost painful to watch. Every word, every gesture laden with years of unspoken hurt. In this moment, the film explores the idea that sometimes the people we love are the ones who wound us the most. The film's final moments, when Emma destroys the stone circle in an attempt to sever the town's dark ties, bring together all the emotional and thematic threads that have been built throughout the film. The moment is one of both resolution and tragedy, as Emma finally takes control of her destiny. Yet in doing so, she loses a piece of herself. The destruction of the circle is symbolic of Emma's breaking free from the town's curse, but it also represents the destruction of her family's legacy, the part of her identity that has defined her for so long. In this climactic scene, the tension that has been building throughout the entire film reaches its peak, and the emotional weight of Emma's decision is felt in every frame. What makes this scene especially powerful is the film's careful pacing and use of silence. The music, which had been swelling throughout the climax, suddenly cuts out as Emma approaches the stones, creating a profound moment of stillness. This silence adds to the emotional intensity of the scene, allowing the weight of Emma's actions to land fully with the audience. As the stones begin to crack and shatter, the camera lingers on Emma's face, showing her quiet determination and the deep sense of loss that accompanies her decision. The final shot of Emma standing amidst the wreckage of the stone circle is a moment of both victory and sacrifice. It is the culmination of everything Emma has endured, a final, powerful statement of her reclaiming her agency. The reactions to these key moments have been overwhelmingly positive, with audiences praising the film for its emotional depth and its ability to make the viewers feel the characters' pain, confusion, and triumph. Each moment, from the quiet return to the childhood home to the explosive destruction of the stone circle, shapes the overall experience of the film. These moments don't just move the plot forward. They provide a window into the characters' souls, allowing the audience to experience their journey on a visceral, emotional level. Ultimately, The First Frost is a film that relies heavily on its key moments to leave a lasting impact. Every scene is carefully crafted to build emotional and thematic resonance, creating a film that is both deeply personal and universally relatable. It is a story about family, loss, and the difficult road to self-discovery, and the key moments serve to highlight the complex, fragile nature of the human condition. By exploring the emotional depth and thematic significance of these pivotal scenes, The First Frost ensures that its audience is not merely watching a film. They are living it alongside the characters, feeling every twist, every revelation, and every triumph. The production of The First Frost was an ambitious journey marked by innovation, dedication, and the willingness to push creative boundaries. At every step, the filmmakers sought to elevate the traditional suspense thriller genre by infusing it with a deeply atmospheric, almost dreamlike quality. This wasn't just a story about uncovering dark secrets. It was an exploration of how those secrets are etched into the very fabric of a town, a family, and a person's psyche. To achieve this, the filmmakers knew they had to break new ground, not only in terms of the visual presentation but also in the way they told the story itself. From the beginning, it was clear that The First Frost would be a film that required a unique combination of artistry and technical mastery. The challenges they faced, from the remote, snow-covered location to the film's complex narrative structure, pushed the limits of what was possible within the genre. But rather than being daunted by these obstacles, the team leaned into them, using every challenge as an opportunity to explore new creative possibilities. One of the most striking features of the film is its visual language, which is both lush and haunting. The cinematography by the talented Aaron Whitaker is a standout achievement. Right from the opening shots, the film sets the stage for the eerie, almost otherworldly atmosphere that defines the entire movie. The sweeping shots of the snow-covered town and its surrounding forest are not just beautiful. They are fraught with a sense of foreboding. These landscapes are characters in their own right, seemingly alive with secrets and danger. Whitaker, known for his ability to turn the most mundane settings into something extraordinary, used a combination of natural lighting and meticulous composition to make the town itself feel like a haunted entity, casting its long, dark shadows over the characters' lives. What makes the cinematography even more impressive is the way Whitaker was able to capture the changing weather as both a thematic and visual element. The film was shot over several months, and the unpredictable weather in the Adirondacks played a significant role in shaping the film's tone. Early in the production, the team had planned to shoot several key scenes in a pristine winter landscape, with the snow acting as a visual metaphor for Emma's emotional isolation. But as the weather unexpectedly shifted into a thaw, the team had to adjust their vision. Instead of seeing this as a setback, Whitaker embraced the change, using the muddy thaw to represent the breakdown of the barriers that had held the characters' emotions in check. In many ways, this thawing process mirrored the internal changes that Emma was undergoing as she faced her past. The decision to shoot scenes during this time created a raw, grounded quality in the visuals. The shifting of seasons became more than just a backdrop. It became a symbol of the emotional transition that the characters were experiencing. The film's visual motifs of cold, frost, and thaw became an integral part of its storytelling, allowing the weather itself to become a reflection of the characters' emotional states. But it wasn't just the landscapes that were brought to life in the first frost. The interior spaces also played a crucial role in the film's narrative. The production design, led by Fiona McAllister, was equally as meticulous. Every detail in the town's homes, shops, and public spaces was chosen to reflect the lingering presence of the past. The design of Emma's childhood home, for instance, was crafted to evoke both warmth and decay. McAllister worked closely with the director to ensure that the house felt lived in, yet distant, filled with objects that had personal significance but were now covered in dust and disrepair. The juxtaposition of old family photos, books, and forgotten trinkets against the oppressive cold of the house was a visual representation of Emma's relationship with her past. She both cherished and resented it, trapped between the two. One of the most striking examples of the film's innovative production design is the stone circle in the forest. This sacred, mysterious location is central to the plot and serves as the site of the film's climactic revelation. The design of the circle was a collaborative effort between McAllister, the production team, and local artisans who worked tirelessly to create a set that felt both ancient and mystical. The stones themselves were meticulously crafted to appear weathered by centuries of exposure, yet each one was positioned to create a sense of symmetry and purpose. The filmmakers didn't want the stones to feel like a simple set piece. They wanted them to become an active, almost living part of the narrative. As the team began to assemble the circle in the forest, they made an unexpected discovery that would add a layer of authenticity to their work. While scouting locations, the team found an actual stone circle deep in the woods, one that was centuries old. At first, they thought it might be an elaborate prank, but after closer examination, it became clear that this circle was part of a much older indigenous structure. The team debated whether or not to incorporate this into the film. Some believed it was too coincidental, too uncanny, while others saw it as a sign that they were meant to shoot there. Ultimately, the decision was made to use the original stones as part of the film's final sequence, adding a layer of authenticity and mystery to the setting. This real-world discovery turned out to be one of the most serendipitous events in the production. The stone circle, with its ancient, weathered stones, provided an extra layer of texture and weight to the story, reinforcing the idea that the town's secrets were not just personal. They were deeply rooted in the land itself. As Emma steps into the circle, the camera focuses on the rough surfaces of the stones, each one seeming to pulse with a history that stretches back long before the characters were even born. This visual connection between the stones and the characters serves as a powerful metaphor for the way the past can weigh heavily on the present, creating a sense of inevitability that is central to the film's themes. The challenges of filming in such a remote location extended beyond just the weather and the landscape. The production faced logistical hurdles in terms of transportation, equipment, and staffing. The town, though picturesque, had no modern amenities, which meant that everything from food to camera equipment had to be hauled in via trucks that braved icy roads. The cast and crew were housed in temporary lodgings, and while this added to the film's atmosphere of isolation, it also created an environment where tensions could easily flare. One particularly memorable moment occurred during a night shoot, when the crew faced an unexpected snowstorm that delayed filming for hours. Rather than seeing this as a setback, the team embraced the challenge, using the storm's dramatic effects to intensify the atmosphere of the scene they were shooting. The snowstorm, with its howling winds and blinding whiteness, became an integral part of the sequence, adding a sense of urgency and danger to the moment. Filming in such a remote location also meant that the crew had to get creative with the technology they used to capture the film's visuals. In order to get the wide, sweeping shots of the town and the forest, Whitaker employed a combination of drones and high-end camera rigs to capture the landscape from angles that would have been impossible with traditional filming methods. The use of drones, in particular, added an ethereal quality to the film's opening sequences, where the camera glides over the snow-covered town and into the dense forest. These shots gave the film a dreamlike, almost surreal quality, enhancing the sense that the town was a place suspended between the real world and something far more sinister. In terms of narrative, the film's pacing was another area where innovation was key. The nonlinear structure of the first Frost, moving between past and present, memories and reality, required a careful balance of tension and release. The filmmakers used flashbacks sparingly, allowing them to build suspense while gradually revealing key pieces of the puzzle. One of the film's most notable techniques was the use of sound as a storytelling device. The sound design was particularly effective in creating a sense of unease. The gentle whispering of the wind, the creaking of the old house, and the distant echoes in the forest all added to the film's atmospheric tension. The filmmakers also used silence to their advantage, allowing moments of stillness to build emotional and psychological weight. In the scenes where Emma is alone with her thoughts, the absence of music or dialogue becomes a powerful tool to immerse the audience in her internal struggle. Another standout achievement was the film's lighting. In keeping with the theme of emotional thawing and transformation, the lighting shifted subtly throughout the film, moving from cold, blue-toned scenes to warmer, golden-hued moments. This shift not only reflected Emma's journey but also played a crucial role in the film's overall tone. The warm lighting in certain sequences, particularly in the moments of intimacy between Emma and Ben, acted as a stark contrast to the cold, impersonal lighting of the town's public spaces. This visual juxtaposition added layers of meaning to the film, underscoring the characters' emotional arcs. As much as the technical aspects of the first Frost were groundbreaking, it was the spirit of collaboration and innovation that truly made the film stand out. The production team's ability to adapt to the changing environment, their creative use of natural elements, and their willingness to embrace the unexpected were all key factors that contributed to the film's success. Through their dedication and ingenuity, the first Frost became more than just a suspense thriller. It became an immersive cinematic experience that blurred the lines between the real and the supernatural, between past and present, and between the tangible and the emotional. Every technical decision, from the design of the stone circle to the use of drones to capture the sweeping landscapes, was part of a larger vision to bring the story to life in the most evocative way possible. In the end, the first Frost is a testament to the power of creative vision and the technical mastery needed to realize it. By blending stunning visuals, innovative techniques, and a deep understanding of the story's emotional core, the filmmakers were able to craft a film that feels as much like a journey into the unknown as it does a haunting exploration of the human condition. The movie stands as a remarkable achievement in both the art of filmmaking and the craft of storytelling, leaving audiences mesmerized and eagerly discussing its complexities long after the final frame fades to black. In the first Frost, the surface-level narrative of suspense and mystery is merely the gateway into a much deeper exploration of the human condition. As the film unravels its layers, it becomes clear that it is not just a story about secrets and family. It is a poignant commentary on the cyclical nature of trauma, the search for identity, and the tension between personal freedom and inherited legacy. Through its use of symbolism, visual motifs, and thematic exploration, the film draws connections between personal histories and broader societal issues, making it a deeply resonant piece of cinema that invites its audience to reflect on the forces that shape us. One of the central themes of The First Frost is the exploration of how the past shapes the present. Emma's return to her childhood home is not just a physical journey, but a symbolic one, a return to the emotional roots of her identity. The house itself, with its dusty corners and faded memories, serves as a physical manifestation of the emotional and psychological baggage that Emma carries. The recurring motif of the house, its creaking floors, the sound of wind brushing through cracked windows, works not only as a setting but as a character in itself, embodying the unresolved grief and tension that lingers from Emma's past. It is in this space that Emma begins to understand the roots of her discontent, the underlying traumas that have influenced her relationships and decisions. The past, in this sense, is not something that can be buried or outrun. It is a part of Emma, a part of who she is. This theme of the inescapability of the past is reinforced by the symbolic presence of the stone circle in the forest, a central element of the narrative. The stones, weathered and ancient, stand as a powerful symbol of the enduring weight of history. They represent the legacies that are passed down through generations, both the light and the dark parts of a family's story. The ritualistic nature of the circle's significance emphasizes the idea that certain aspects of the past are not just memories but active, living forces that continue to shape the present. As Emma uncovers the truth about the town's dark rituals, it becomes clear that the legacy of her family, like the stones themselves, cannot be easily destroyed or forgotten. The town's prosperity and survival are tied to these ancient rites, and Emma must reckon with the truth that her own identity is inextricably linked to this dark history. The stone circle's placement deep in the forest is also significant. The forest, which initially seems like a serene, tranquil space, is gradually revealed to be a place of danger and hidden truths. This shift in perception mirrors Emma's own journey. What once felt like a safe, familiar world, her home, her family, slowly transforms into something sinister and confining, and she must venture deeper into the forest, both literally and metaphorically, to understand the full extent of her legacy. The forest becomes a place where truths are buried, where the line between the natural world and the supernatural blurs. Emma's journey through the forest, and ultimately to the stone circle, is symbolic of her path towards self-understanding, a painful, often unsettling exploration of the forces that have shaped her. Another recurring theme in the film is the tension between personal freedom and familial obligation. Emma's relationship with her mother, Margaret, is fraught with unresolved conflict, and much of the film's emotional weight rests on Emma's struggle to understand and confront the choices her mother made. Margaret, who has spent years keeping secrets from Emma in order to protect her, becomes a symbol of the sacrifices we make for those we love. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that these sacrifices come with a price. Margaret's actions, though motivated by love and the desire to protect Emma, are ultimately a betrayal of Emma's autonomy and agency. By keeping the truth from Emma, Margaret has unwittingly placed her in a position where she must choose between preserving the family legacy and breaking free from the chains of the past. This struggle for autonomy is a universal experience, one that resonates deeply with anyone who has had to confront the tension between honoring family traditions and forging their own path. The tension between freedom and obligation is also explored through the relationship between Emma and Ben. Ben, who is initially portrayed as a supportive and understanding figure, becomes a key player in Emma's journey towards self-realization. While their relationship offers moments of warmth and tenderness, it is also clear that Ben, like Emma's mother, is caught in the web of the town's dark legacy. He, too, must grapple with the weight of his own family's history and its connection to the town's secrets. Ben's character is a subtle representation of the idea that no one is truly free from the past, and that even love and intimacy are shaped by the inherited baggage of our families. On a broader societal level, The First Frost serves as a commentary on the cyclical nature of trauma and the way in which societies perpetuate harm across generations. The town itself, a seemingly idyllic place on the surface, is built on a foundation of violence and sacrifice. The rituals that sustain its prosperity are, at their core, rooted in exploitation and the manipulation of vulnerable individuals. In many ways, the town serves as a microcosm of larger societal structures that rely on hidden histories of oppression and violence in order to maintain power. As Emma uncovers the town's secrets, it becomes clear that the sacrifices made by the town's founders were not isolated events. They are part of a larger, ongoing cycle of harm that continues to affect the present generation. The film's exploration of the town's rituals also invites reflection on the ways in which communities justify and perpetuate harmful practices in the name of tradition or survival. The town's prosperity, achieved through the ritualistic sacrifices, is framed as a necessary evil, something that must be done in order to ensure the survival of the community as a whole. This justification of harm for the greater good is a theme that resonates with real-world issues, where individuals and groups often make sacrifices in the name of maintaining societal order, even when those sacrifices come at the expense of others. The film asks the audience to consider the cost of maintaining tradition and whether the preservation of a community's identity is worth the harm it causes. Symbolically, the film's representation of nature as both a nurturing and destructive force speaks to the duality of the human experience. The forest, with its towering trees and quiet, eerie beauty, is a place of refuge for Emma as well as a space of terror. It is in the forest that she uncovers the truth about her family, and it is there that she ultimately faces the ultimate decision that will determine her future. This duality of nature, as both a life-giving and life-taking force, reflects the complexities of the human experience. Just as the forest holds both danger and beauty, so too does Emma's journey. Her path is fraught with both loss and growth, with moments of devastation and moments of transcendence. The film also reflects real-world societal and cultural issues surrounding the tension between the individual and the collective. In the town's rituals, the community's needs are prioritized over the individual's well-being. The sacrifices made by the townspeople, particularly Emma's family, are framed as necessary for the survival of the collective, even at the cost of personal suffering. This mirrors societal structures in which the individual is often subsumed by the needs of the group, whether in the form of family expectations, societal norms, or institutional systems. The film asks the viewer to question the price of community and the cost of conformity. It also highlights the emotional toll that is often exacted on individuals who are forced to carry the weight of their family or community's past mistakes. As the film progresses, the idea of breaking free from the past becomes increasingly important. Emma's decision to destroy the stone circle is not just a symbolic act of defiance. It is a moment of liberation. It represents her refusal to be bound by the legacy of her family and the town's dark history. This act of destruction is not only a physical rejection of the town's rituals, but also a powerful statement of personal autonomy. By destroying the stones, Emma is choosing to forge her own identity, free from the suffocating grip of the past. The film suggests that true freedom can only be achieved when individuals are willing to confront and dismantle the systems and legacies that seek to define them. Ultimately, The First Frost uses its intricate plot, rich symbolism, and thematic depth to explore the complex relationship between identity, legacy, and trauma. Through its visual and narrative choices, the film reflects both personal and societal struggles, offering a poignant commentary on the forces that shape who we are and the ways in which we can break free from them. By weaving these themes into the fabric of its story, The First Frost invites its audience to reflect on their own relationship with the past and the legacies they inherit, both the ones they are born into and the ones they choose to carry forward. The First Frost is a cinematic experience that speaks as much through its visuals as it does through its narrative. The director, alongside an exceptionally talented team of cinematographers, production designers, and sound designers, crafts an immersive world where every visual element, every note of music, and every shift in sound works to enhance the psychological depth of the story. This carefully constructed sensory landscape is not only an aesthetic choice, but also a storytelling device that amplifies the emotional resonance of the characters' journeys. From the first frame to the last, the film's use of cinematic techniques draws the audience into its haunting world, making the experience feel as if it were unfolding not just on the screen but inside the viewer's mind. At the heart of the film's visual style is its use of naturalistic lighting and a muted color palette that reinforces the emotional weight of the story. The cinematography, helmed by Aaron Whitaker, emphasizes the bleakness of the environment and the emotional isolation of the characters. From the outset, the film sets a tone of melancholy and unease. The town, buried beneath a blanket of snow, is painted in shades of gray and blue. These cold hues dominate the film's early sequences, reinforcing the idea that Emma is emotionally trapped in a place that is both geographically and psychologically isolating. It's a world that feels distant, remote, as if every corner of the town carries a heavy burden, a sense of foreboding that the audience cannot escape. As Emma begins to confront the truth about her past, the cinematography subtly shifts. The cold tones of the opening sequences give way to warmer, earthier colors, muted greens, golden browns, and soft beiges, as the thaw begins in the narrative. These changes aren't merely cosmetic, they mirror Emma's emotional thawing. The more she confronts her past and begins to unearth the buried secrets of her family, the less she is locked in the icy grip of her memories. There's a sense of transformation in the way light itself behaves. In the darker, more emotionally volatile moments of the film, the lighting often feels harsh and unforgiving, casting long shadows that add to the sense of internal turmoil. The stark contrast between light and shadow mirrors the moral ambiguity that Emma faces as she uncovers the truth. There are no clear lines between right and wrong, and the beauty of the town is forever tainted by its dark secrets. This interplay between light and shadow is exemplified in some of the film's most pivotal moments. One of the most striking visual sequences takes place during Emma's confrontation with her mother in the old house. As the two women face each other in the dimly lit living room, the shadows on their faces seem to reflect the weight of the years spent apart, the unspoken words, and the painful truths they've both been hiding. The camera moves deliberately, with long, slow pans that allow the tension in the room to build organically. The space itself feels constricting, almost claustrophobic, as if the walls are closing in on the characters. This is not just a fight between mother and daughter. It's a fight between the past and the present, between the weight of legacy and the desire to break free. Whitaker's choice to use long takes, particularly during moments of emotional intensity, allows the audience to settle into the character's emotional landscape. The camera doesn't rush. It stays with Emma, lingering in her silences, allowing us to witness her transformation in real time. This technique not only fosters a deeper connection with Emma, but also amplifies the emotional stakes of the story. In these moments, the pace of the film slows, allowing the viewer to become immersed in the character's inner world. There's a quiet tension in these long takes that allows the cinematography to act as a silent character in the story, guiding the emotional tone of each scene. Another key aspect of the visual storytelling in The First Frost is the use of space. The town, as mentioned, is largely presented as a character in its own right, and the way the camera interacts with its architecture and geography contributes significantly to the film's atmosphere. The wide, sweeping shots of the snow-covered streets and the expansive, barren forests serve not only as a way of showcasing the setting, but as a metaphor for Emma's internal isolation. The overwhelming vastness of the snow-covered wilderness mirrors the emotional chasm Emma feels. Her struggle to bridge the gap between herself and the people she loves, between her past and her present. The framing of these shots is crucial to the way the film communicates themes of isolation and entrapment. Whitaker often positions Emma at the center of wide shots, leaving her alone in a vast landscape that dwarfs her. In one particularly striking image, Emma is seen walking down a long, empty road, her figure tiny against the endless stretch of snow. This shot encapsulates the sense of disconnection that permeates the film, the overwhelming sense that Emma is alone in a world that is both physically and emotionally distant. The same approach is used in the scenes that take place in the forest, where Emma is framed in long shots, surrounded by the towering trees that seem to close in around her. The forest, which is both a source of refuge and a site of danger, becomes a representation of Emma's own internal conflict. It is both a space where she can uncover the truth about her family and the place where her past catches up with her. The film's editing also plays a vital role in shaping its mood and pacing. One of the most notable stylistic choices is the use of nonlinear editing, which mirrors the fractured nature of Emma's memories and her emotional state. The narrative shifts between the present and the past, and these transitions are often achieved through subtle, seamless cuts that don't just depict a shift in time but reflect a shift in Emma's emotional journey. The film's editing doesn't just serve to move the plot forward. It acts as an emotional rhythm, dictating the pace of the revelations and the tension that builds as Emma delves deeper into her family's dark secrets. The editor's ability to create a sense of unease, to manipulate time and space, is essential to the film's psychological impact. There's an almost dreamlike quality to the editing at times, particularly in the flashbacks, where reality and memory blur together. The sound design and music in The First Frost are equally integral to its narrative impact. The soundscape of the film is lush and atmospheric, enhancing the feeling of immersion in this cold, haunted world. From the soft whisper of the wind through the trees to the distant crack of ice breaking underfoot, every sound is carefully chosen to evoke the atmosphere of the setting. There is a certain eerie quality to the sound design that contributes to the film's sense of dread. The creaking of old floorboards, the rustling of leaves, the distant howl of the wind. All these sounds work in tandem with the visuals to create a world that feels alive, ominous, and full of secrets. The music, composed by Elena Vargas, is another key element of the film's storytelling. The score is haunting and minimalist, often relying on sparse instrumentation that evokes a sense of quiet despair. The use of strings, particularly in the more introspective moments, creates an atmosphere of melancholy that permeates the entire film. But as the story progresses, the music grows more intense, using dissonant chords and subtle, unsettling rhythms to mirror the rising tension in Emma's journey. The score is not just an accompaniment to the action. It is a psychological tool, manipulating the viewer's emotional response to the characters and the story. At times, the music becomes almost oppressive, reflecting the weight of the secrets Emma is uncovering and the psychological toll they take on her. Perhaps the most striking example of the way music and sound design work in concert with the visuals occurs during the climactic sequence at the stone circle. As Emma confronts her family's dark past, the music swells with a sense of impending doom, while the sound of wind and creaking trees adds to the sense that the forest itself is holding its breath. The interplay between the natural sounds, the score, and the visual composition of the scene creates an overwhelming sense of inevitability, a feeling that everything in the film has been building to this moment. Unique stylistic choices define the director's vision and shape the tone of the entire film. One of the most defining elements is the decision to keep the supernatural aspects of the story subtle, allowing the more fantastical elements to emerge gradually. The film never relies on overt special effects or flashy visuals to create its sense of unease. Instead, the director uses the natural environment, snow, ice, trees, and the moonlight, to evoke a sense of the uncanny. This decision reinforces the thematic exploration of the past, making the supernatural elements feel more like extensions of the character's emotional states rather than external forces. The director's restraint in this regard is a mark of confidence in the story's ability to resonate on a deeper, more psychological level. Another stylistic choice that defines the film is the decision to show moments of vulnerability in the characters through the camera's gaze. The way the camera lingers on Emma's face during moments of quiet contemplation, her eyes reflecting both the weight of her past and the uncertainty of her future, allows the viewer to feel her internal conflict. The cinematography and editing work together to create a space where the audience is not just observing Emma's journey, but experiencing it alongside her. This visual intimacy is key to making the film's emotional core resonate so strongly. In conclusion, The First Frost is a masterclass in visual storytelling, blending cinematography, sound design, music, and editing to create an immersive, emotionally charged experience. Every element of the film, from the lighting to the framing to the score, serves the greater narrative, deepening the emotional impact of the story. The director's vision is clearly expressed through these cinematic techniques, creating a film that is not just seen, but felt. The film's use of visual style and sound elevates it from a simple thriller into a haunting meditation on the past, identity, and the inescapable nature of family legacy. Through these choices, The First Frost becomes more than just a story. It becomes an experience that stays with the audience long after the credits roll. The magic of The First Frost lies not just in its captivating plot or its technical achievements, but also in the extraordinary performances delivered by its cast. The way the actors interact with one another on screen and how their dynamics shape the film's emotional journey are key to why the movie resonates so deeply with audiences. As the story explores themes of family, identity, and trauma, the actors bring an authentic vulnerability to their characters, making the audience feel as though they're witnessing not just a performance but a real emotional experience. This chemistry between the cast members, bolstered by behind-the-scenes moments and the production environment, truly elevates the film into something special. The heart of the film rests on the complex, often tumultuous relationship between Emma, portrayed by the brilliant Ava Knight, and her mother, Margaret, played by the seasoned Claire Montgomery. The chemistry between Knight and Montgomery is nothing short of magnetic, with each scene crackling with tension and unspoken history. Emma's return to the family home after years of absence is fraught with unaddressed emotions, and Knight's portrayal of a woman burdened by her past is juxtaposed perfectly against Montgomery's performance, as a mother whose love is both protective and suffocating. There's a palpable sense of emotional distance between the two women, even when they're physically close, which makes their eventual confrontations all the more powerful. This delicate balance of tenderness and antagonism was something the two actresses cultivated on set through hours of rehearsal, as Knight and Montgomery spent a great deal of time discussing the emotional backstory of their characters and the history between them. Their off-screen connection helped translate their performances into something that felt raw and real, a testament to their deep understanding of each other's acting styles and the delicate nuances of the script. Interestingly, some of the most intense moments between Emma and Margaret were improvised during rehearsals, much to the delight of the director. Knight and Montgomery often found themselves pushing each other to explore the emotional depths of their roles, testing the boundaries of their characters' relationships in ways that surprised even them. One memorable moment occurred during a confrontation between Emma and Margaret in the cramped, dimly lit kitchen of the family home. Knight and Montgomery had rehearsed the scene a few times, but it wasn't until the cameras were rolling that they truly began to push each other's limits. At one point, the intensity between the two actresses was so palpable that it felt as if the entire room was holding its breath. The camera caught every fleeting emotion in their expressions: resentment, love, guilt. And it was these unscripted, raw moments that made their relationship feel so truthful and emotionally charged. Ben, played by the charming Lucas Hayes, provides a stark contrast to the strained dynamic between Emma and Margaret. While Ben's character begins as a supportive, almost idealized figure in Emma's life, his own struggle with the town's legacy and his family's involvement in its dark rituals gradually reveals a more complex side to his character. Hayes' chemistry with Knight is effortlessly natural, and together they bring a sense of warmth and balance to the story. Their relationship offers the audience a brief respite from the tension surrounding Emma's family drama. But as the film progresses, the cracks in their seemingly perfect connection begin to show. Hayes and Knight's dynamic shifts subtly, with Hayes playing a man caught between his love for Emma and his family's complicity in the town's secret history. There's a tension in their relationship that is communicated through small gestures, glances, and the way their voices crack during emotional exchanges. It's in these quiet moments that the actors truly shine, delivering performances that convey the growing unease without ever over-explaining. The supporting cast is equally essential to the overall success of the film, adding layers of complexity to the already rich character tapestry. Thomas Sinclair, played by the versatile Daniel Moreau, is a key figure in Emma's journey, and his presence on screen is one of mystery and intrigue. Sinclair is the town's historian, a man who knows far more than he lets on. Moreau's portrayal of Sinclair is understated but powerful, with his stoic demeanor and cryptic dialogue creating a sense of dread that follows Emma throughout her journey. Sinclair's dynamic with Emma evolves as they uncover the town's secrets together, and Moreau brings a quiet intensity to the role that makes Sinclair both a potential ally and a dangerous wildcard. His chemistry with Knight is one of mutual curiosity, a tension that plays out as the two characters navigate the murky waters of truth and betrayal. The film's set dynamics were equally crucial in shaping the performances, as the physical environment of the town and the house itself became integral to how the characters interacted with each other. The production design team, led by Mia Harrison, crafted an environment that felt as though it had lived and breathed through the same experiences as the characters themselves. The house, old and weathered, was both a symbol of Emma's past and a silent witness to the unraveling of family secrets. The creaking wood and dim lighting weren't just stylistic choices. They were a reflection of the psychological weight that hung over the characters. For Knight and Montgomery, spending hours on set in that house, whether in the worn kitchen or the attic full of forgotten relics, allowed them to immerse themselves in their characters' emotions. The intimacy of the house, with its narrow hallways and dust-covered furniture, created a palpable sense of claustrophobia that was felt both by the characters and the actors. Beyond the house, the town itself, buried under snow and shrouded in mystery, plays a significant role in the emotional and psychological atmosphere of the film. Filming in a remote location, with real snow and harsh weather conditions, added an element of authenticity to the production. The town, which feels almost like a living entity, takes on an eerie quality in the film. The streets, empty and cold, become a metaphor for the emotional isolation that the characters experience. The actors often found themselves bonding over the difficulties of filming in these extreme conditions, sharing stories and building camaraderie as they braved the elements together. This shared experience, combined with the haunting landscape, helped the cast better understand the sense of entrapment that Emma feels within the town. There was a shared commitment to creating an atmosphere that felt as real and oppressive as the characters' emotional struggles. The bond between the actors off-screen played a crucial role in shaping the final film. Many cast members spoke about how their time spent together in rehearsals and between takes helped to strengthen their performances and create a more authentic portrayal of the relationships on screen. Lucas Hayes, who played Ben, often recounted how his connection with Ava Knight developed throughout the filming process, with the two of them spending time discussing their characters' backstories and motivations. This collaboration helped create a chemistry that felt effortless, even in the most intense moments. Knight, too, spoke about how the process of rehearsing with Montgomery allowed her to tap into the deep emotional wells needed for her performance. The director, knowing how important these relationships were, encouraged the cast to lean on each other for support, creating a cohesive and collaborative environment that translated directly into their work. The bond between the cast members was also evident during the more challenging moments of production. Filming during a particularly harsh winter, the crew often faced unpredictable weather conditions, with snowstorms and freezing temperatures making certain scenes even more difficult to shoot. Yet, these challenges seemed to bring the cast closer together, forging a sense of unity that enhanced the emotional depth of the film. There was a shared understanding that the harsh conditions mirrored the internal struggles of the characters, adding an extra layer of authenticity to their performances. When the first Frost was released, audience reactions were overwhelmingly positive, with many viewers drawn to the film's emotional complexity and haunting atmosphere. The chemistry between the actors was frequently cited as one of the strongest aspects of the film, with critics praising how the characters' relationships felt both raw and real. The dynamic between Emma and her mother, in particular, resonated deeply with viewers, sparking discussions about family trauma and the weight of inherited history. Audiences appreciated the film's ability to balance the personal with the supernatural, grounding its eerie atmosphere in the very real emotional struggles of its characters. Critics hailed The First Frost as a masterful exploration of grief, identity, and the burdens of the past. The film's performances were universally praised, with Ava Knight and Claire Montgomery singled out for their nuanced portrayals of mother and daughter, each bringing a complexity to their roles that made the film feel emotionally authentic. Lucas Hayes also received acclaim for his portrayal of Ben, with many noting how his character's quiet strength and vulnerability created a much-needed contrast to the tension-filled dynamics of Emma's family. The supporting cast, too, was praised for their ability to add depth to the story without overshadowing the central performances. In the months following the film's release, The First Frost cultivated a passionate fanbase, with many viewers revisiting the film to pick up on subtle details and unravel the deeper layers of its narrative. Online discussions flourished, with fans dissecting every scene for hidden meanings, examining the symbolism of the stone circle, and sharing their interpretations of the film's complex relationships. The film's long-term fan engagement has become a testament to its emotional resonance and the lasting impact of its storytelling. In conclusion, the chemistry between the cast, the behind-the-scenes moments that shaped the final product, and the powerful audience reactions all play an integral role in making The First Frost such a memorable and impactful film. The actor's ability to create deeply authentic relationships, both on and off screen, adds an emotional depth that elevates the entire narrative. The film's reception, both critically and from fans, proves that The First Frost is more than just a supernatural thriller. It is a film that captures the complexity of human relationships, the weight of family history, and the power of performance in making those emotions feel real. As The First Frost fades from the buzz of its initial release, its legacy begins to crystallize as one of the most significant films of its era. In the years since it first graced the silver screen, it has not only influenced the genre it belongs to but also redefined the boundaries of what cinematic storytelling can achieve. The film is now a touchstone for a new wave of supernatural thrillers, psychological dramas, and family-centric narratives that explore generational trauma, secrets, and the often invisible bonds that tie us to our past. Its cultural impact extends beyond the confines of the screen, embedding itself in the collective consciousness of audiences, filmmakers, and critics alike. The movie did not merely entertain. It shifted the very conversation about how we craft stories and how we connect with the most primal parts of ourselves. At the heart of the film's genre-defining legacy is its approach to blending the supernatural with the deeply human. The First Frost took a familiar concept, a haunted town, a family secret, a past that won't let go, and elevated it into something far more nuanced. It took the staples of horror and psychological thriller and infused them with a richness and sensitivity that was rare in genre cinema. Whereas films in similar genres often rely heavily on shock value, fast-paced plotting, and surface-level suspense, The First Frost shifted its focus inward. The true terror of the film lies not in the monsters lurking in the shadows, but in the emotional and psychological confrontations between the characters, the unraveling of a family's history, and the repercussions of secrets kept too long. The supernatural elements, while eerie and unsettling, are not the driving force of the story. Instead, they serve as a conduit for the exploration of the characters' inner turmoil, making them a reflection of the emotional stakes at play rather than external forces. This blending of the fantastical with the deeply personal created a template that would inspire a new generation of filmmakers. Movies that followed The First Frost took note of its slow-burn pacing, its commitment to atmospheric tension over cheap scares, and its willingness to delve into psychological depth. The influence of the film is evident in works like The Night House, Hereditary, and The Witch, where themes of grief, family trauma, and the haunting presence of the past are explored through a similar lens of unease and dread. Like The First Frost, these films are not driven by an overt reliance on gore or violence. Instead, they build their horror through mood, character development, and a carefully crafted narrative that slowly unfurls its secrets. In terms of filmmaking, The First Frost is a testament to the power of subtlety and restraint. It eschews the flashy visual effects and quick cuts that have become staples in modern thrillers. Instead, the film's director, Aaron Whitaker, grounded the movie in a style that felt both timeless and organic. His use of slow, deliberate camera movements allowed the tension to accumulate in a way that made each revelation feel earned, each emotional crescendo feel earned and unsettling. The decision to shoot much of the film on location, in the snow-drenched rural town and the decrepit family home, added a layer of authenticity and eeriness that is difficult to replicate in soundstages or computer-generated environments. In doing so, Whitaker not only reinforced the emotional weight of the story but also demonstrated that in filmmaking, less can indeed be more. The natural beauty of the surroundings, juxtaposed against the pain and mystery that Emma faced, further amplified the film's impact. In an era of fast-paced, CGI-driven films, The First Frost stood as a refreshing reminder of the beauty of simplicity and the power of traditional filmmaking techniques. The film's technical achievements were equally lauded, particularly in the realms of cinematography and sound design. The work of Aaron Whitaker and cinematographer Daniel Brooks is nothing short of visionary. Their use of muted color palettes and the stark contrast between light and shadow helped create a visual style that was haunting yet intimate. The haunting score, composed by Elena Vargas, and the subtle sound design gave the film an emotional depth that amplified the underlying tension. It's a rare combination of elements: stellar performances, striking visuals, atmospheric sound, that come together so seamlessly to create an immersive cinematic experience. The lasting influence of the first Frost is evident in the films that followed in its wake, with many filmmakers turning to a similar approach, where mood and atmosphere are just as important as the plot itself. But beyond its influence on filmmaking, the first Frost found its place in pop culture, becoming a cinematic touchstone for audiences. Its themes of family secrets, the weight of the past, and the psychological scars that shape us have connected with viewers on a profound level. There is something universal about the film's portrayal of the fragility of relationships, especially those formed within families. Its portrayal of trauma and grief resonates with people from all walks of life, making the film relatable to a wide audience. Whether it's the way it depicts the haunting nature of emotional baggage or the way it shows the complexities of mother-daughter relationships, the first Frost spoke to the heart of what it means to be human, to grapple with one's past, and to try to move forward despite the weight of history. Perhaps one of the most significant aspects of the film's cultural impact is the way it resonated with viewers on a personal level, creating a fan base that has only grown over time. In the years following its release, the first Frost has cultivated a devoted following, with fans not only revisiting the film but also diving into its many layers, theories, and symbolic meanings. The film's ambiguity in certain areas, its refusal to tie up every loose end in a neat bow, has only deepened the engagement from viewers who love to dissect the intricacies of the narrative. Online discussions, fan theories, and even fan art have all contributed to the film's long-standing presence in the cultural zeitgeist. It's a film that invites viewers to return to it time and again, finding new details and meanings with each rewatch. Part of its continued relevance is tied to its ability to resonate with broader cultural shifts. The film came at a time when audiences were beginning to seek out more thoughtful, introspective forms of storytelling. It fit into a cultural moment where stories of personal struggle and familial dynamics were being re-examined in a new light. At the same time, the first Frost connected with audiences who were seeking something more unsettling, more emotionally resonant than the typical thrillers of its time. The film's unique ability to blend these two desires, psychological depth and suspense, made it not just a popular film but one that would leave a lasting mark on its audience. Awards and accolades began to pour in shortly after the film's release, further cementing its place in cinematic history. It was nominated for multiple prestigious awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, and won several for its performances and technical achievements. Claire Montgomery's portrayal of Margaret earned her numerous accolades, as did Ava Knight's heartbreaking turn as Emma. Critics lauded the nuanced, raw performances from both actresses, with Montgomery's layered depiction of a mother grappling with her past becoming one of the film's most celebrated aspects. The first Frost also received recognition for its cinematography, with the film's atmospheric visuals earning praise for their haunting beauty. Even the sound design and score garnered attention for their ability to evoke the psychological complexity of the characters and their world. It wasn't just awards that defined the film's legacy, however. The movie's staying power in popular culture is perhaps the most significant indicator of its influence. It has sparked endless conversations among viewers, critics, and filmmakers, with its thematic depth providing ample material for analysis and discussion. The film's ability to transcend its genre and speak to universal human experiences has allowed it to endure long after its initial release. As we reflect on the first Frost's cultural impact, it becomes clear that its significance isn't just measured by its immediate success, critical acclaim, or the discussions it generated in its time. It is significant because it speaks to something timeless and universal, the human condition. It reminds us that, no matter how much we may try to outrun the ghosts of our past, we cannot escape the shadows of our family, our history, or our choices. This theme, of confronting the past to find peace in the present, is what has ensured that the first Frost remains a relevant and meaningful film, even years after its release. Its influence continues to be felt, not only in the films that followed but in the ongoing conversations it sparked within the cultural landscape. It serves as a reminder that some stories don't need to be loud or flashy to make an impact. Sometimes, the quietest films are the ones that leave the longest-lasting impressions, just as The First Frost did. In the years to come, its place in the pantheon of great cinematic works will only continue to grow, and its cultural significance will remain as powerful as ever. As we come to the end of our journey through The First Frost, it's clear why this film has earned its place in cinematic history. What makes it stand out is the rare combination of elements it brings to the table. An intricately woven narrative, multidimensional characters, impeccable performances, and a deep sense of emotional resonance that continues to haunt viewers long after the credits roll. In a time when the genre of supernatural thrillers can sometimes be overwhelmed by gimmicks or jump scares, The First Frost chooses a different path, one of quiet intensity and complex human emotions. It builds its tension not through quick thrills, but through a slow-burning unraveling of family secrets, personal trauma, and the eerie atmosphere of a town that holds its own dark history. Every corner of this film feels like a piece of a larger, haunting puzzle, drawing you in and challenging you to uncover its deeper meanings. From the first moment Emma steps into her family's dilapidated home, the film pulls you into its world, a world where every creak of the floorboard, every gust of wind outside the window, and every cryptic glance between characters feels loaded with meaning. The house, the town, the weather. Everything around Emma feels like it's working against her, yet it also mirrors her internal struggle. The production design, coupled with the film's brilliant cinematography, elevates this sense of unease, using the natural world to reinforce the characters' emotional states. Snow-covered streets, empty alleys, the vast isolation of the winter landscape. These visual cues communicate more than words ever could, setting the tone for the emotional and psychological depths explored within the narrative. But beyond the technical brilliance of the film lies its emotional core, the relationships. The central mother-daughter dynamic between Emma and Margaret is, without question, the beating heart of the story. Ava Knight's nuanced portrayal of Emma, struggling to return to a life she had long since abandoned, and Claire Montgomery's heartbreaking depiction of a mother trying to shield her daughter from a past she cannot escape, is what makes this film so gripping. Their performances are nothing short of mesmerizing, the kind that invites you into the rawest corners of the human experience, full of guilt, love, resentment, and the desperate desire to protect even when the past refuses to be buried. The supernatural elements in The First Frost don't overshadow the emotional narrative, but instead serve as a symbolic backdrop for the characters' personal struggles. The eerie happenings that plague the town, the mysterious stone circle, and the ominous warnings from the locals are more than just plot devices. They're representations of the haunting legacies we inherit, the ghosts we carry with us whether we want them to stay or not. It's the perfect balance of horror and humanity, where the supernatural is not just an external threat, but a mirror for the inner turmoil of the characters. The way the film tackles themes of trauma, memory, and family is another reason it resonates so deeply. The struggles Emma faces aren't simply about dealing with a malevolent force outside her, but rather the demons she's been running from all her life. Her complicated relationship with her mother, the wounds that have festered over time, and the realization that no matter how far you run, the past will always find its way back to you. The film's exploration of family dynamics, particularly the strained bond between mothers and daughters, is raw and real, making it all the more relatable to audiences. It asks tough questions about inheritance, not just of material possessions but of pain, of unresolved feelings, and of the cyclical nature of family trauma. These themes transcend the supernatural plot, allowing the film to speak to something deeper, something universally human. Another defining aspect of The First Frost is its pacing. Unlike many thrillers that rely on constant action to maintain tension, this film takes its time, allowing every moment to breathe. The slow burn pacing ensures that when the twists and revelations finally arrive, they hit with maximum impact. There's a careful attention to detail in every scene, from the lingering looks between Emma and her mother to the quiet conversations that hint at much darker truths lurking just beneath the surface. Every piece of the puzzle is meticulously placed, and while the film's answers don't come quickly, they are earned, making the payoff all the more satisfying when it arrives. Visually, The First Frost is nothing short of stunning. The cinematography by Daniel Brooks captures the bleak beauty of the town and its surroundings, with each shot seemingly crafted to elicit a sense of dread and isolation. The desolate landscape, with its sweeping shots of snow-covered fields and frosty trees, feels both majestic and suffocating, mirroring Emma's emotional journey. The film's muted color palette, earthy tones of grays, blues, and whites, adds to the sense of coldness and abandonment, further immersing the viewer into the world of the film. Every frame feels purposeful, and every visual choice adds to the overarching sense of unease that defines the film's atmosphere. The film's technical achievements extend beyond its visual style and into the realm of sound design. The haunting score by Elena Vargas works in perfect harmony with the visuals, using sparse, melancholic notes to heighten the emotional depth of each scene. The silence, often punctuated by the occasional creak of an old wooden floor or the rustling of wind against the windows, adds a layer of tension that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats. The sparse yet impactful sound design mirrors the narrative structure. There's a quiet, building unease that slowly crescendos, and when it does, it leaves you breathless. And then there's the lasting legacy of the first Frost, its profound impact on audiences and the genre as a whole. The film's nuanced approach to horror, its thematic exploration of the psychological effects of trauma, and its refusal to rely on cheap thrills make it a standout example of how supernatural thrillers can be more than just entertainment. It's a film that resonates emotionally and intellectually, leaving a lasting impression that stays with viewers long after the credits have rolled. The characters are unforgettable, the atmosphere chilling, and the themes explored are universal in their complexity. The way the first Frost defies conventional genre expectations, merging horror with deeply emotional drama, has inspired filmmakers and storytellers to embrace a more nuanced, introspective approach to horror. It's influenced a wave of films that, like the first Frost, prioritize atmosphere, character development, and emotional resonance over traditional jump scares or over-the-top spectacle. Its impact can be seen in films that came after, which draw inspiration from the same blend of family dynamics, psychological depth, and eerie atmospherics. It's a perfect example of how horror can be used as a vehicle to explore deeper, more personal human experiences. Beyond its impact on the genre, The First Frost also became a cultural touchstone for a generation of moviegoers. It's a film that has sparked countless conversations and debates, with viewers finding new layers and interpretations every time they watch it. The questions it raises about family, trauma, and the past remain as relevant as ever, and the film's refusal to give clear-cut answers only enhances its power. The First Frost is a film that invites audiences to reflect on their own lives and the ghosts, both literal and metaphorical, that haunt them. It's this resonance, this ability to connect with people on a deep emotional level, that makes it a movie that will stand the test of time. As we close this deep dive into The First Frost, it's impossible to deny its significance in the world of cinema. Its balance of horror and human drama, its complex characters, its atmosphere, and its emotional depth all come together to create something truly special. It's a film that doesn't just entertain. It challenges, it resonates, and it lingers long after the screen goes dark. If you love this breakdown, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of cinema. Let's keep exploring movies together.